Welcome, everybody, to Inside the Trades, the podcast where we go behind the scenes with the people building successful businesses in the trades. I'm your host, Levy, and each episode we're sitting down with contractors, business owners, and industry leaders to hear their stories, the challenges they face, the lessons they've learned, and the strategies that have helped them grow. Today, we're joined by Seth, the owner of Retroman Comfort Systems, and we're located here in Davis County. Yep, you're in Layton. I'm in Clearfield, and yep, today again, thank you for joining us, Seth. We're excited to have you here and hear more about your journey.
Thanks for having me.
Awesome. All right, and so going into the story, how did you get into the trades, and what led you to start your own business?
Well, I was kind of my stepdad was a general contractor, so I was just in the trades, growing up, and I got into heating and air when I was young, maybe 20, and just saw a opportunity to make good money in the trades. I saw what my employers were charging and see how much money, a little bit, how they, what kind of money they could make, and I just kind of fell into it from there and did heating and air conditioning for others for maybe 10, 15 years or so, and then went out on my own.
Oh, that's great, and I hear that a lot, especially with older people that I've been surrounded with, telling me like, "Hey, the money is in the trades. That's right now. That's where the money's flowing, and so if you can find a good trade, you're gonna make a decent living." We love what we do, helping other contractors, on our end at least, answer calls for their clients, so that way we can get them some booked appointments. But going back to you with the story, what were you doing before you got into the trades? When you were that young 20-year-old.
I would, did general contracting with my stepdad. I mean, we'd be like scraping, paying off houses, just the grunt work in a contracting business. I mean, I went to college for a little bit at Weber State for a couple years, trying to figure out what I wanted to do. I did sales for a short amount of time. And then pretty much from 2021, 22 on, I was doing heating and air.
Oh, that's awesome. Let's rewind that a little bit. What made you decide that owning your own business was the path you wanted to take?
It's a handful of things, but the one or two main things that stuck out for me was, one, freedom. Doing heating and air, we worked long hours. When you're working for someone else, I mean, it didn't really change. I'm still working long ass hours, but working for someone else, being on call, not being able to make my own schedule, not being able to get time off when I needed to, and the potential to make money are probably the two biggest reasons I decided to go into business with myself.
And what was the biggest challenge during that time?
I mean, starting any business with nothing is a challenge in itself. I mean, the first 2 years were very difficult. The very first year I started was January of 2020. So that was right at the beginning of the whole pandemic thing, people staying home. That made the first 2 years very, very, very difficult. So just riding out the ups and downs, making sure that, we tuck away money for the slow times, things like that. So just getting a full schedule in the first 2 years was probably my biggest hurdle.
Yeah, absolutely. And looking back at it now, well, and reflecting, would you have done anything differently?
Yes, I think I would have made sure I had more of a nest egg, more of a little bit of a savings, more money, cash flow on hand when I started to ride out some of the ups and downs instead of just we just pretty much buckled down and ramen noodle it up for a couple months till the money started coming in. I would have done that's the biggest thing. And just in the last couple years, we have taken all of the financial aspects of the company and let the CPA, financial person handle all that. I wish I would have done that a little sooner too.
Okay. Yeah. That's a great point that you made. And, it's really interesting because I think a lot of people see a successful company today, but they don't always see everything that happened behind the scenes to get there.
Yeah. I mean, every small business owner you look at has a story and I would imagine a struggle, because it isn't easy.
Right. Yeah. Let's talk about what actually took to build the business. And what would you say the biggest challenge you faced when you were trying to grow the company?
So the biggest challenge I faced, and I probably still face, is finding good quality employees that show up, take as much pride in their work as I take in mine, and just people who, they have that in them, and just good quality employees. It's really hard to find that.
Yeah, absolutely. And how did you overcome that challenge to figure out the kind of employees you want and need for your business?
Well, so one, still working on that. I don't know if it's been overcome yet. It is a struggle, but in the short term, I brought my son on who just turned 19, about to turn 20, actually. He's full time now. So having him on board is huge because he does have a little bit of that ambition, not here just for a paycheck. He wants to see things grow, and he sees the
Yeah.
big picture as well. So
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean,
to be honest, I'm still overcoming that one. I think the employee thing is a difficult one in the trades. But I do believe that where the trades are going and the focus that there is in the trades and in, employment and DATCs and technical schools, I think that should change in the next couple of years. I think there will be a higher level of a pool of people to choose from.
Yeah.
Their quality.
Absolutely. Yeah, you definitely bring up a great point with the growing industry in the trades. When I first went to Job Corps to go meet with the director there and understand what they're doing is just mind blowing. I love what they're doing. Like they're bringing in kids and they're teaching them about learning skill sets so that they're able to work in the trades and be able to make a living for themselves as they graduate. It's beautiful. Trades is definitely the now, it's the future.
Looking back, I never went, did the whole, what is it, like the technical school programs that high schools have that allow you to go learn a little bit, wood shops, things like that. I never really dabbled in any of that. And they're amazing. They're great because there's just so many people, kids, boys, girls, doesn't matter, that could use a little bit of handy and a little bit of help in those areas.
Right. Yeah. And going on to the next question, was there a specific moment when you realized, okay, we're really starting to build something here?
Yeah, I think that maybe two years ago or so, when we had pretty much a full winter with a relatively full schedule. My schedule Monday through Friday was kind of booked. My first few years in business, dude, I mean, we're talking day to day. Service call would come up and I'd be like, oh, thank God I got work. But I think when that schedule showed up full and I had plenty of work, things coming up, so I wasn't stressing about future work or where the money's coming, that was absolutely, it was huge. And that was probably the biggest point where I was like, all right, I think I might have made it. I think I might be okay, and was able to take a deep breath.
Yeah, and for those that don't know, Utah winters, they can get pretty cold. So we definitely need both AC and heating in this crazy area part of the world.
And funny thing, like with heating and air, we probably bring in 70% of our income in the summer months. So probably like from May, September, those months. And winters, it does get cold, but it is just a little bit more of a lull, a little bit slower of a time. So yeah.
Yeah. And how did you initially find your customers?
So to be honest, I did a little bit of side work, when I was working for an employer, met some small general contractors here and there that I'd just do a little bit of work for. And from there, it is and was 100% word of mouth referrals, people referring me to others. And that's how we've done it the whole time. And that's how we got where we are.
Love that. And as the company grew, like what did you have to change about the way you operated?
There's almost daily you have to be able to change and grow and adapt. I think for us though, like one of the biggest things that we started again a couple years ago, just to keep everybody on the same page, is detailed standard operating practices. So regardless, if we do duct cleaning as well as heating and air, so we have a detailed document that just shows exactly. So any Joe Schmo that goes on that duct cleaning job can just look at that standard operating and just follow the rules, follow the list. You can't go wrong. And we've made those for service calls, so they know exactly what they need to do on that service call. For same thing with installs, they have a detailed standard operating practice and things that we do on top of the installs. Like we run around to all the neighbors' houses and put a door hanger on. and say, hey, we're working at your neighbor's house. We just installed their heating and air conditioning. So, we require them to do all those things on that list every single job. And that, I think that was huge for us because we were kind of winging it for a long time.
When did you realize you couldn't do everything yourself anymore?
Separate. I think it was probably just a couple years ago when I realized like that it's too much, like when I would go work an 8-hour day, have to come home, do bids, proposals, look at takeoffs to try to get our commercial side of things going. And it was too much. Yeah, I was absolutely overwhelmed. And that was the turning point. Same with like budgeting and finances and P&Ls, like doing all that and trying to keep track and then having to go meet with insurance agents and this and that while you're still trying to put in a full 8-hour day of work doing service calls. Yeah, it was overwhelming.
Yeah, no, I'm sure. And, going into that growth mindset, like what do you think was the biggest factor behind that growth?
Like the biggest factor that pushed me to, you kind of have a choice when you're in the trades or when you're an HVAC company. You got two choices. You always hear, I'm sure, if your business is not growing, it's dying. One, and two, like I was kind of a one-man show, and I still kind of am. I mean, I have my son as well, and we got a couple guys out there when we need them. But really, I had two choices: stay small, mom and pa, make enough money to get by, pay myself, have retirement, things like that, or push myself and make something that is growing, it's successful, and has the potential to sell. I have the potential to sell it when the time comes. And we did like a little, I don't know, seminar, a little bit about growth and HVAC and having the mindset to sell. Whether you really truly want to sell or not, you still want to run your business like you were going to sell it. That way you have all your ducks in a row and everything's straight. So
that's powerful. And we'll pivot a little bit into the lessons, expertise that you've picked up along the way. You've been through a lot of the challenges, that other contractors are dealing with right now. I want to get into some of the lessons you've learned along the way. What's one mistake you made early on that you would never make again?
I think early in the first couple years of business, not being financially savvy, not keeping a proper P&L, having a budget, and, consistently every few weeks, couple weeks, visiting that, making sure everything's together and the finances are right. I would have probably implemented that way earlier than I did.
Yeah.
Instead of flying by the seat of my pants for the first couple years. And even if you are like financially savvy, you still need to have that specialized person to like monthly, run through your numbers, make sure, things are on the up and up. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And what's one thing you think contractors tend to underestimate when it comes to running a business?
The fact that you have to be a jack of all trades a little. You got to know a little bit about business. You got to know a little bit about finance. You got to know a little bit about working with people and sales, and you need to know a lot about HVAC. So realizing that you have to wear all those hats, whether you want to or not, and being willing to change and adapt and learn.
Yeah, absolutely. And going into one of those hats that you put on, how important do you think customer experience is to growing a trade business?
I mean, super, super important, especially for us. When, like I said earlier, when everything we do is word of mouth, I have to give the customers a great experience because a lot of other trades may be a little different, but when we get in front of a customer, we look to have that customer for life, whether it's doing service contracts, installs here and there, but we'd like to make an impression to where that person's just going to hands down call us anytime they need anything HVAC plumbing related. So the customer experience it's absolutely huge.
Yeah, that's great. And what systems or processes have made the biggest difference in your business?
The little guerrilla marketing type things. One, asking for references or referrals. Every job we're on, we do the 4 or 5 houses in that square. We do door hangers. We like to introduce ourselves to people when they're walking by our jobs and just say, hey. We also put a yard sign in every job we do. And then we just end up leaving it there until the customer decides they don't, or it blows over or whatever, that says, hey, we did the HVAC or duct cleaning in this house. Give us a call, So that way, every job, it's kind of relatable. The neighbors are trust their neighbor, and it's worked out really well. So I would say that guerrilla marketing, really inexpensive marketing that just takes a little bit of effort.
Absolutely, yeah. Friendliness can go a long way, with smiling and just simply saying
Yep.
hello,
Yep.
to a stranger. But just diving into the mindset that you have and the options you were talking about earlier about, do I want to stay small or do I want to grow this business? What separates the contractors who stay small from the ones who successfully scale?
That's a tough one. I would imagine, sheer willpower and ambition. I think, I just really think it's a personal preference thing on where you want to go. Or again, for a long time, I wanted to stay small until I saw the seminar about, make sure you're building your business with the intent, with the vision of selling, because that makes you put the proper systems in place to make it easier to sell. So, I mean, that really is a tough question, dude. I just, some people have it, the hustle, the business mindset. There's nothing wrong with either one. If you can be successful and stay small and mom and pa and make enough money to survive, et cetera, and live the way you want to live, then, it's just a preference maybe.
Yeah, I agree. If you don't have to have a huge business, to consider yourself successful. And those the two main points that you pointed out is just having a vision, seeing yourself doing, and the ambition of starting or scaling the business or, keeping it operating.
And some
Level.
like being kind of goal oriented too, I would imagine helps a lot for people that want to grow and make something bigger. Some people just want to stay small.
Yeah, perfect. What's been the biggest personal lesson you've learned from owning a business?
Probably that you can do this whole thing on your own. You don't have to rely on an employer or a steady income. If you are disciplined and you have proper goals, you can put something together that's pretty successful.
Yeah, absolutely. And how's owning a business changed you as a person?
Probably in general, just being less reliant on the paycheck, less reliant on someone else, and more independent. But really, like it's a lot of ways, even the small ways, just with things like hustling, keeping your day, your notes together. Yeah, there's a lot of ways it's helped me improve a lot of things, really.
And how do you handle the pressure when things aren't going well?
I think I do okay. Yeah, the pressure, it's tough because it's almost like there's always pressure. When you're busy, the pressure is trying to keep everything straight, trying to make sure you call back this person, make sure you get that bid out, and not forgetting, all the millions of things you got to do that day, and then when you're slow, you got this pressure on your shoulders of like, oh man, I got to get out here and hustle because I need to get something on the schedule. And so like, it really is a lot constant pressure. I think I handle it pretty well because I feel like I probably do a little better when I'm under pressure work wise. So
yeah. And what are you most proud of when you look at what you've built?
Honestly, I'm probably most proud of the behind the scenes things that nobody sees, the hard work, the discipline it takes. I'm pretty proud that I put in all that work and all that hustle without any recognition or acknowledgments anywhere. And I still, at the end of the day, feel great about it. And I can look back and be pretty proud of all the hard work I put in.
Love that. All right. And we're going into the last segment of our interview here. So we're going to have a little fun. And before we wrap things up, I'm just going to throw a few quick questions at you and we'll see how it goes.
All right.
What's one tool you couldn't run your business without?
QuickBooks.
QuickBooks. Okay. Best business advice you've ever received?
You can go broke sitting at home. Don't go broke running your own business.
Love that. Biggest business mistake you've made?
I think probably trusting some contractors and not putting liens on certain projects and then getting bit in the end.
Okay. What's one thing every contractor should be doing more of?
I would say probably the little guerrilla marketing stuff that I mentioned earlier, just inexpensive things that just take manpower to do to help grow your business.
What's one thing contractors should stop doing?
I'm going to give you two things. Stop taking advantage of people and homeowners and not try to make your yearly income on one project. We can all be fair at the same time, make money.
Absolutely. And if you had to start your company over tomorrow, what would you do differently?
I think I would start it out with more cash flow on hand, like I mentioned earlier. That made the first couple years real difficult.
And what's one goal you're working towards right now?
Our biggest initiative in the next, I think, 6 months or till the end of the year and probably into next year is to get a stronger Google review presence, Yelp, those deals. And then same with get our Facebook social media marketing strategy on point and get a consistent presence on social media platforms.
Going into the final piece of our interview here, before we let you go, I want to give you the opportunity to speak directly to the contractor who's listening right now. Maybe they're just getting started, maybe they're struggling to grow, maybe they're in that stage where they're working nonstop but haven't figured out how to get the business to the next level. What would you tell them?
I just probably don't give up. I mean, I know that in the first few years of starting, I went through probably 2 or 3 times of I'm done. It's too much. The juice isn't worth the squeeze, whatever. So don't give up. But at the same time, if you legitimately should walk away, you just got to pick the right time to walk away to where it doesn't, affect you long term financially or anyway. So just keep the hustle and you'll get through it.
Don't give up, guys. Don't give up. And if you could go back and talk to yourself on day one of starting your business, what would you say?
Remind myself that being in business for yourself, doing your own thing is far more gratifying than working for an employer, and that the grass isn't always greener on the other side if you're thinking about going back to the job world.
Yeah, absolutely. Seth, thank you so much for joining us today. I really appreciate you sharing your story, your experiences, and the lessons you've learned along the way. For everyone listening, if you enjoyed this episode of Inside the Trades, make sure you follow or subscribe so you don't miss our next conversation with another contractor and business leader. And if you'd like to learn more about Retroman, what is your service area that you serve?
Just all along the Wasatch Front. We pretty much go down to Orem, Provo, and then up to, pretty much up to the Idaho border. I mean, and we're willing to work anywhere. We've done jobs in St. George even, but mainly northern Utah.
You heard that. Perfect. So thanks for listening to Inside the Trades, and we'll see you on the next episode.